Do good people do bad things? Do good people do bad things? That's my biblical question for the week. Bill Lockwood is here, one of the smartest white men on this side of heaven. Bill is here the last Tuesday of every month. He's a radio host and blogger at American Liberty with BillLockwood.com. American Liberty with BillLockwood.com. He's a teacher in Wichita Falls, Texas, preacher at Our Park Church of Christ, and author of the study guide, Ezekiel, the Watchman of Israel. And we're going to tell you how to get that book. It is an amazing guide. So we're going to tell you, Bill, good morning.
Good morning, Jesse Lee. How are you today?
All is well, sir. How was Thanksgiving for you and your family?
It was really wonderful. I went out to Phoenix. You know, I'm from Phoenix,
right,
and traveled out there and got to see family and a lot of friends. And so it was really, really wonderful.
That's amazing. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, the weather was great.
Yeah, I was going to ask, was it cold in Arizona?
No. It's beautiful. It was, it's short sleeve weather all winter long, just about there in Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah,
So before I get to the issues that I want to talk to you about, I have a brand new biblical question that you just heard, and it's: do good people do bad things?
Well, certainly they do. As a matter of fact, the Bible is consistently warning us not to do those things. I can't imagine why there would be a warning not to do bad things or to sin. We'll just put it that way. The Bible warns Christians not to sin. But, for example, in 1 John chapter 1, verses 7 and following, if we sin, we do not the truth and we walk in darkness. But if we walk in the light, we have fellowship one with another. The blood of Christ cleanses us from all sin. Well, there is a Christian who's walking in the light, but he steps out and sins, and yet the Bible teaches that blood of Christ cleanses us as long as we continue to walk in Jesus Christ. But here's another thing. Children are born pure and innocent and holy. Jesus said, let the little children come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of heaven, in Matthew chapter 18, verses 1 through 5. Yet, at one point, sometimes these children that are innocent and pure, they sin and they fall away from God, and they need to be reconciled to God, which is what the Bible's about.
But when they sin and fall away from God, it's due to having bad parents. They start to resent their parents, and that's what caused them, or they become angry at their parents, and that's what caused them to fall away from God. Am I right?
Well, that's part of it. I mean, I don't doubt that occurs, but I don't think that explains every person's sin. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. All have sinned. So that being the case, everybody have sinned. I don't know that we can explain everyone's sin on the basis of bad parenting. Bad choices sometimes are made. And, just like Peter warns Christians, if they go back into the world, it's like a dog turning to its own vomit again,
right,
or a sow that has been washed to wallowing in the mire. Here's a sow has been washed. That's a Christian he's speaking about, now going back to wallow in the mire.
Amazing. I want to talk to you about, I really appreciate that, Bill. Thank you. I want to talk to you about Ben and Jerry and liberals acting outraged over the gas situation there at the border and tear gas situation at the border. But first, Ben and Jerry, first of all, is an ice cream company, I think, right?
Yeah.
And Ben and Jerry created a flavor, Pecan Resist.
Yeah.
Pecan to resist. And this is to fundraise for anti-Trump resistant groups. Women March, Honor the Earth, Color of Change. I forgot the other one.
NETA, N-E-T-A.
Oh, NETA, yes. So what do you think about all this?
Well, this is an illustration where back in the 60s, the resist movement, the resist movement website claims the roots back into the 1960s and the anti-war protest, which were fomented by communists and others such as the Students for Democratic Society, which is a communist organization out of which spun the Bill Ayers types of the world. And all of those people were right in the center of that movement of the anti-war protest in the 1960s. Well, this is what the resist movement is. It goes right back into the same thing. And amazingly, Students for Democratic Society, the SDS, is right in the middle of it. as well as people like Color of Change and so forth. And this is really a coalition of, that is the Resist movement is, a coalition of communist, pro-communist organizations, pro-socialist organizations that are beginning to coalesce and put forth a strong effort against Trump. And so Ben and Jerry's, of course, is a liberal organization run by liberals at least, and they actually contribute to these different websites and different organizations such as Honor the Earth. And I think they're so outlandishly liberal and anti-Christian. It's absolutely amazing that people would even continue to buy Ben and Jerry's.
It is. And by the way, Ben and Jerry created a flavor supporting the fallen Messiah, Barack Obama's election, and same-sex marriage. They also donated to the human rights. Is what?
Is it chocolate or vanilla?
That's a good question. These people also donated to the Human Rights Campaign, and we all know that they are a huge, radical homosexual organization. So my question is, how is it that liberal companies like Ben and Jerry to support all of these far-left, godless causes and get away with it? The company is not under threat of shutdown. But if a conservative company supported a conservative man or woman, it's a big deal.
Oh, yeah. This is all a one-sided deal here in America anymore. It's sad to me, but I remember the 60s. I was just a boy, but I do remember the 60s. But I would read about it, and I understood fairly what was going on. My father was in the military, so it was a sad thing to see the anti-war protest at the different universities. And then later on, I understood the communists were behind it and funded all of it. All of that was on the fringe of society, Jesse. But today, that fringe has moved into mainstream. It's just been injected into the mainline bloodstream of America. We've even had people who have been on that side in the White House, Barack Obama being one of them. Yeah. But, there are other people such as Bill Clinton who was involved in this anti-war thing or the communist movement in the 1960s. Same type of thing. These people have all now moved into the mainstream of America. So churches are infiltrated with it. Yeah. The entertainment ministry is completely inundated with it. Schools and universities are completely filled with openly Marxist professors. So this is not something out on the fringe anymore. So now you have the Ben and Jerry's ice cream, and we'll have all kinds of things like the Starbucks and all these different organizations that will be supporting pro-communist, pro-socialist organizations. And they're very open about it at this point.
And what do we do about it? The children of God, the good folks. How do you change this?
Well, one thing is we need to convert people. We need to be more interested in converting people and converting them to Jesus Christ, and in focusing upon individuals. And that's the only way that we can do this. Is be more interested in that. It's pretty sad that we have such a huge tidal wave going in the leftist direction, but it is all about anti-God is what it's about. That's really the bottom line. For example, the Honor the Earth website that Ben and Jerry supports, it's a so-called environmental indigenous peoples group, and they claim very boldly that they're counting on the teeth of the United Nations to support them, but that the earth and the resources of the earth, the rocks and trees and rivers, have as much rights as Jesse Lee Peterson to exist. And they even say these entities have a standing a legal standing in a court of law, and they say there's no such thing as property rights. Amazing. Well, what does that mean? Well, you are no more valuable than a free-flowing river. I'm no more valuable than a redwood tree. If that's the view of life, it's a different view of mankind, a different view of the whole world. It's a worldview that is completely paganistic, and that's what's happening. So it's really an anti-God movement.
One of the reasons that it's lasting so long is that most people are afraid today. They're afraid of losing their jobs. They're afraid of being labor racist. They're afraid to stand up. And because the children of the lie have incorporated this fear in the churches and conservative businesses, they're allowed to get away with it, because as long as you have fear, you don't have God with you, so you don't have the proper power to fight against evil.
You're right. I mean, people are fearful. In the churches, many times they are lackadaisical. They don't pay attention. They need to go look at the National Council of Churches website and all the churches that support it, and their agenda is exactly the same as Ben and Jerry's. The LGBT community, socialism, earth justice, social justice, that's all this is about. And people in the churches need to wake up. I think that's one of the main problems. We're asleep at the wheel.
Last night, I don't know if you know about this story or not, but last night the president was down in Mississippi supporting a woman, Republican woman, running for Congress or something down there. And last week, the enemy showed this woman at a so-called racist rally, and they're trying to use that against her. And so she apologized, and this was like years ago. And so I'm concerned about this because Barack Obama was known to be with Louis Farrakhan, and he never apologized for hanging out with Louis Farrakhan. I'll let you respond to that when I come back, Bill. Let me take a quick break. Bill Lockwood is here, and Bill has a very good guide out, a book out, Ezekiel, the Watchman of Israel. Bill, how can people get your book, and how can they get to your website, listen to your radio show, and all the good things you're doing?
Thank you, Jesse. Well, the website is AmericanLibertyWithBillLockwood.com. And the book can be purchased on that, the study guide about Ezekiel, and it's an Old Testament, of course, prophet during the captivity. But I put that study guide together for that. But the radio show also is named the same, American Liberty with Bill Lockwood, and it airs out of Wichita Falls, Texas, on News Talk 1290 AM dial. That would be Saturdays at 11 a.m., and then also in Lubbock and Abilene on Sundays at 5 p.m., and that will be on KFYO 790 in Lubbock, and then on 1440 a.m. in Abilene. So that's the radio show and how to get to the book and other things. And, of course, we write articles on there and other things that are available. So thank you for that. And
we have it on our site as well. I was asking about this woman, Sydney Hyde Smith, down in Mississippi. She's running for a Senate, to become a senator. She is a senator in an election runoff. And the president was down in Mississippi last night campaigning for her. This woman has been accused of being a racist, of course. And she apologized for something that happened years ago. And so my thing is, why do Republicans or conservatives keep apologizing to the children of the lie when the children of the lie, in case you don't know who I'm talking about, the liberal media, the Democratic Party, the rhino Republicans, and all of them, they do exactly what they're accusing the good folks of doing, and they never apologize for it. I didn't hear the fallen Messiah, Barack Obama, talk about his relationship with Louis Farrakhan or Jeremiah Wright Jr., any of those people. Why do we keep apologizing to the evil ones?
Bill Ayers, I mean, he opened his campaign in Bill Ayers' house, and Bill Ayers bragged about killing policemen and tells us that he's anti-American. And so there's no apologies there. You know, first of all, I would say regarding Ms. Smith down in Mississippi, I'm always skeptical when I hear racism. I mean, you hear it so frequently anymore. You hear it all the time. It's like the little boy who cried wolf. It's like everything is racism. Everything is racist. Everybody has racist attitudes. And so, of course, it's always the white people are always racist. And so you hear it so much. It's just like you can't. I mean, you begin to look at with a skeptical eye at the charge. That's the first thing I would say. But I do grow concerned, Jesse, that as you put it, we're always apologizing. We're always trying to backpedal something that happened 20 years ago. And yet you got the Louis Farrakhan's out there, as you mentioned, who are right now calling for the extermination of Jewish people. Yeah. It doesn't matter whether they're Jewish or not. The extermination of people is what he's calling for. And yet Barack Obama is happy to be linked arm in arm with him and all these other guys like it. And it's just the Al Sharptons of the world. They're all hooked up together, but no one ever backs up. Just the same thing, for example, the entire left movement. Think about this. Up in Michigan, they had a judge just recently struck down the female genital mutilation law. That was a law that was against it. A judge struck it down, and the Keith Ellisons of the world and all, they are all the left. They don't say a word. This is child abuse. This is child abuse that is practiced by Islam and is practiced by Muslims all over the world. been practicing in Michigan, and now a judge says, well, you can't have an anti-FGM law. Amazing. You don't hear one word from the left on this kind of child abuse, actually taking a girl and cutting her genitals when she is a young girl in order that she might not enjoy relationships later in life. It is absolutely stunning, and yet the left is silent as a tomb. Yet we want to make them apologize for attending a rally that maybe someone was racist back there in that particular period, or what they think is, and that's just it's absolutely incredible to me.
It is. It's mind-blowing. We saw the same thing happen with Chick-fil-A when the president of that company went against so-called same-sex marriage. It was just an outrage. And we went down, my nonprofit went down, and we supported Chick-fil-A. And thank God, it seemed as though they're doing pretty good.
It's too. Yeah.
On Sunday, 500 to 1,000 illegal aliens rushed the border. They threw rocks at the border agents and fought with Mexican police. But the liberals say, well, we used tear gas on the children.
Yeah.
What do you say about that?
Well, number one, we need to recognize these people are not refugees. I mean, we have stretched that term till it has no meaning whatsoever. Yeah. They even are saying now on the left, they say, well, this refugee is people escaping from low-income areas and poverty-stricken countries. Well, that's not refugee status. And so that's one thing. Number two, you know what? All of these criminals, and they're criminals to break into a country. That's criminal action right there.
Yes.
To do that, they're taking women and children, a few of them, and not many of them are in the group. They're mostly young men. 80% are young men.
Yes.
They put them in the front of the group purposefully in order to gain the PR with the American public. And we know that all the liberals are going to get all excited about it. And I'm going to say this. I'm tired of the liberals preaching. You know, we all preach. Everybody has a sermon they want to preach. And the Geraldo Riveras of the world to preach, you know, we need to be compassionate. Well, I say, get down there and give your money away. Or how about bring them up and put them in the Hollywood homes? Let them knock on the walls of the compounds where these Hollywood elites live and let them take them in.
Yeah.
I mean, but no, they don't want that. They want to preach that you do it, that I do it. I preach also, but the difference is I simply pass a basket around at church as you do and offer or ask for offerings, which is a free will offering. They do the same thing. They preach, and then they don't pass a basket. They might pass the basket, but they have a gun to your head saying, you're going to give, and this is what you're going to give to.
Amazing. You know, I'm so grateful that we have a president who has put the country first, and he is going all the way and getting his wall up. He won't let these people come in. I just saw him last night, or maybe this morning, saying, we're not going to let them in. We're not going to let the illegal aliens in. And since I've been on this earth, I've not heard a president so bold in putting the country first.
I have not, Jesse. I'm thankful to God that this man has a backbone, that he will stand on the principles of right and wrong and say, this is what the law is, and we're going to enforce it. We're not going to let people just storm through the border. That is great. I appreciate him.
That's why another reason I call him the Great White Hope.
That's right.
It's pretty bad. You know, I think about the things that he have to deal with, and the fact that he can't even trust the rhino Republicans. You know, so this guy's like almost standing alone, except for the voters. And if the radical media, who are the enemies of this country anyway, the liberal media, if they can turn the voters away from this president, it will be over. Thank God the voters are sticking with him.
You know, the mainstream media is 95% negative toward Trump. I mean, those are figures that continue to come out. 95% negative. Everything they speak is venom and filled with hatred and vitriol. Well, that's the mainstream media. Yet the public, the American public, recognize that he is standing up for the individual rights and the Christian foundations of this nation, which made us a great nation. And, you know, that includes having borders and securing our borders, just like securing our homes.
Yes.
And that's exactly what this is about.
Yes. You know, so we're out of time, but I just realized that you are now on Twitter, right?
Well, yeah.
Big time.
I've been on Twitter a little while. I mean, I get in there and do a tweet or two, right? And I always retweet the Trump tweets and so forth, and yours as well. Yeah, I'm not as adept at it as many people need to want are. You know, people a lot better than I am.
That's AM at AM Lib Radio.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, you can find. Yeah, that's right.
Am I saying it right?
Yeah, AmLib Radio. Yeah, it's American Liberty. It's just American AmLib. Yeah, radio. Yeah, that's
Bill,
right.
you are a good man. Thank God for you. I hope that you become president next time.
Well, thank you so much, Jesse. Will you be my VP?
I will. I will happily. Yes, sir.
Right,
God bless you, Bill. Thank you.
Same to you, Jesse. Lord bless you.
You too. We'll talk soon.
Right.
Back in a moment, folks.